I think I designed my first house for money, right after I graduated. So you're looking at 30 years.
I love the fact that there's something about the mission of what we're doing that's bigger than just drawing barndos, as a job. That's been one of the things that we've prided ourselves on since day one, is like we offer something bigger than a career, to come in and be a part of something that's impacting people.
You get people that have this idea of a home they want to live in, and you get to hold their hand and walk them through it, and knowing you're going to design something that they're going to raise their family in or retire in. So that's kind of the passion behind what drives me is helping someone get what they're trying to get, like investing in their future by helping design something.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Barndo Show. I'm excited about today's episode because I get to unveil yet another hidden gem inside of the Barndo Co ecosystem, and it's Mr. Ben Montgomery, and just came on board recently as our new in-house lead designer. So take a little bit and just tell people kind of about who you are. And then I'll connect some dots because we've been knowing each other for a long time.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm excited to be part of it. I am. So, 30 years in design. I started in high school, went through R.D. Anderson, 2-year degree there, and left there. And I knew I wanted to work for architects. I wasn't really concerned about going to get my license. I just wanted to draw. I wanted to be the draftsman. So I did that for a little while. 4 years later, man, I'm back there teaching, and that's where we met, and just started. I think I designed my first house for money, right after I graduated. So you're looking at 30 years. So, everything from custom design to a lot of remodels, meeting with clients, going and figuring out what they really need. And so did that. So the design part of my life has been kind of moonlighting because I've always had other careers. It took me 30 years to realize, hey, this is the gift you've been given. Use it. And, I've been a business owner. I've been in ministry, still do ministry. I don't think you ever get out of ministry. It's another passion of mine. So I love meeting people. And you get people that have this idea of a home they want to live in, and you get to hold their hand and walk them through it, and knowing you're going to design something that they're going to raise their family in or retire in. So that's kind of the passion behind what drives me is helping someone get what they're trying to get, like investing in their future by helping design something for them.
That's awesome. Well, so like for me, it was a surreal moment when you got to come be a part of the team because, in high school, I figured out that I enjoyed that as well. Like I loved it. I loved the idea of like being able to put something on paper that could turn into something that could be built. I was very creative. I'm still very creative. Yeah. I'm not structured. I'm just creative. Yeah. But it was such a good outlet for me. And so I've told the story numerous times, on stages of like the impact that, a career center had on my life, and like the impact that it had to like not really know, like what I wanted to do. I know I hated school. I know I hated, I was not like, I was very smart. I just wasn't willing to study to learn more at that time. Like I just knew like the basics that I needed to get out of high school. I just knew them. I didn't really have to work hard. And I tended to take the easiest way. I think that's just like the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Like it's like, why would I sign up for advanced AP calculus when I could also just take this class that I already know how to do and get 100? Yeah. And then I got introduced to the Career Center, and you were my teacher.
Yes.
And it's funny looking back because like we're not even that far apart in age. No. And but you taught the intro to CAD, and then you taught the architectural design program, and I ate it up with a spoon. When I was going to school, you could do 2 years there, or like 2 semesters, and I was there for 3 years, and I think I was there every semester, and I don't know what loophole that I found, or I just challenged the system, but I was just always there. Like
Yeah.
I spent half of my high school career
Yeah.
at, R.D. Anderson Career Center.
I love it.
But I did too. I loved it. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. And so I went into that, pursued it, got a great opportunity, came out of high school, got hired on by one of the largest architectural firms in Greenville for sure, maybe even in the Southeast.
Probably.
And was working, they brought me in as a draftsman to just intern to do what all the drafting interns, I think there's 4 or 5 of them that they put in there. And they gave me a very specific set of things to do. It was not fun. It was not creative. It was lame. And so I just built a system and I did it all in like 2 weeks. What they intended to be my first year, I just did. And they were like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And I was like, well, it's because I want to do something more challenging and more fun. And so I ended up getting connected to one of the lead architects in the office and shadowing him and like working on special projects with him. It was fun. But I remember about 6 or 7 months after I started doing that, I was sitting in his office one day and I said, man, is this what you do every day? Like, I mean, like, do you ever like do anything fun? Like, and he's like, oh yeah, this is fun.
Do you get out of the office?
No, not at all. He wouldn't. And I remember he'd like drink his coffee and he's looking at plans and he's having all these big conversations. And I'm sure it was fun for him because he was getting to do things that I wasn't privy to. But like, I was just like, man, I cannot do this. And then they had a custom builder that was in the office with them. And I got to work on some special projects with them, and I really enjoyed that. But I missed being outside and like being part of things. So I just knew, I was like, I am not pursuing this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go build. I like that. I like being in the field. And I just walked away from it one day. Just told him like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing something different. And he's like, oh, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. When are you thinking? I was like, I'm thinking like this afternoon. And that was the end of my pursuit to be an architect. But I love design. And so like when we started Barndo, I know how to do it. I don't have the time or capacity to do it, but I was very involved in it. And, networking all the stuff and working with third-party designers and trying to pull people in and get them in and like get them to produce a product that's in my brain and get it on paper and doing all that and like the struggle. And I had reached out to you at one point in time and, you're across the country doing ministry and then you left there and then you're chasing another thing and
chasing dreams.
Yeah. And it was good. And I was thinking, man, like I know a guy, like there's not a lot of people that are really good at this that aren't, sucked up into a full-time career doing it, that have the capacity to do the volume that we're talking about. And I'll try to connect the dots and it just never worked out. And then not too long ago, you sent me a message. You were like, hey, I'm back in the upstate and I plan on staying here. Let's at least have a conversation. And I came there with a job offer in hand. I was like, man, I can't wait.
It was so exciting because, leaving a business that we created that was our dream, knowing that I was going to have to leave it and come back home to care for my mom, it was tough. But I also took it as an opportunity to say, okay, what have you done all these years that you really love, that you've done consistently, that's been a part of your life, and you didn't have to think about it? And I'm like, well, Lord, I've been designing houses forever. That's the only consistent thing that has paid my bills. Right. I mean, of course, I've had, other jobs at the school and the ministry and my own businesses, but I'm like, one consistent thing is the designing houses. So I said, all right, well, that's where I'm going to go. But how do I want to do it? I've always kind of had my own business doing it. And, the stresses of where's the next client coming from? Oh, I have 30 jobs piled up. I've got to get this thing done, but I also want to, do other things. So, I really had a heart check and I'm like, what do I want to do here? And so you just kept popping up in my mind because I knew that the style, the Barndos and the things were something that I could get my head around and really enjoy and not get bogged down with all the other stuff that, like you saw at your job you're just in the office all the time and you don't get to see the product. You don't get to see the smile on the customer faces. There's so many things you don't get. So I said, you know what? I had another interview lined up. And when I I realized that was going to be a sterile, like office job, no fun.
Yeah.
And when I met with you guys and you were interested, it was such a blessing. Man, I'm like, praise God. I get to go to work with not only someone that I admire, because I mean, you were like my favorite student, you know. So and anytime people ask about my career in education, I always bragged on you. And here's one of the reasons why. Not only because you're super talented. So, you know, we have our national competitions. Yeah. So I went out in Kansas City as a student and placed 11th in the nation in architecture. And you went out there and beat it. You placed 10th. Yeah. So I'm like, dang it. Well, at least it was a student of mine, you know, that beat my record. So you've always been one that I bragged about. Yeah. And so man, I'm so excited. I've got ideas, you know, ways that we can take the brand and just put our signature stamp on it. And I'm excited on where we're headed, man.
Yeah, no, it's awesome for us because like the biggest thing for me is trust, you know, and knowing somebody that is not just gifted at their job, but really has a purpose and cares and knows like, you know, we're doing it for a bigger purpose. Mm-hmm. And you check all those boxes. Yeah. And then like, there's a lot of really cool stuff that happens with like, you know, over the years, celebrities, you know, people that, you know, you list them on the radio or you've seen them in movies and then they're in your inbox going, hey, you know, we're trying to work on this project. And I've always kind of ignored them because you know, we're good at building. If you're local, I'd love to help you. Yeah. Not a lot of them live in Spartanburg, South Carolina. No. And so like, I've always kind of like, you know, sold ourselves short there because I didn't have great trust in the way we're doing it because we were third party and a lot of that stuff. And, you know, to bring it back in to where I got somebody here that I know can do it. I trust them that I'm more than happy to endorse and put my name on them. Mm-hmm. We've been able to tackle some of those projects. You know, I think it was like first week you're in the office. Yeah. I called you. It's like, you won't believe who's in my inbox. And like, it gives me a confidence to know that we've elevated that side of the business to fit our clients' expectations, but also create some synergies in what we're doing because what we're doing is an impossible task sometimes of trying to build 400 or 500 barndominiums in all these different areas. And then you tack on the fact that we've launched this, you know, Southern Farmhouse line and it's completely different, but it's in the same areas. And there's a billion moving pieces inside of Barndo Co. And to have you in there. And also I'm incredibly passionate about investing in future generations. I'm incredibly invested in wanting to give an opportunity to someone that was alike of me in a career center environment. I sit on a board for an organization that does that. And, I talk and all these people are coming to me from all these career centers and they're like, we have students. And I'm like, I don't have anybody to lead them. Yeah. And then to have that and know that like, you can design at a high level, but you also have this experience in that environment and you're also passionate about it. It just opens up opportunities for us to invest in that way as well. Like they might not be long-term employees at Barndo, but they might get a realization that this ain't what they want to do long-term. Exactly. Or they might come in and say, man, you know, design's cool, but I really like purchasing. I really like scheduling. I really like project management. Or they might say, I hate construction altogether. And to be able to provide that opportunity to our community and help kids make the decisions, because I think there's so much pressure in high school to go get a degree without a lot of validity to whether or not you would enjoy what that degree brings. And so it's just a perfect timing, perfect storm. And I'm excited. And plus, as soon as you came in, we were like, all right, Ben, here's 5 years worth of ideas.
Get started.
Yeah. And, you know, and so it's fun for me because you're just always in there just clicking
I'm just doing it, man. I'm working for myself and being the Lone Ranger. I've just juggled, you know, I'm a multitasker, entrepreneur. So it's like, you know, sure, I can jump on that because I'll just move from one plan to the next. Now, you know, granted, you have to be careful not to make mistakes and forget things. And that's a challenge. But, you know, I thrive on being able to meet the needs of say you or Ross, or if the team says, all right, we're going to push out this plan, but we need some drawings. We're going to remodel an office. Hey, I need some drawings. Yeah. I love it because it's something that I can do really quick, get that thing moving down the road, and then work on something else. Kind of like you were at your other job. It's like, hey, let's pound this out because we've got a vision. We know where we're headed, but if I don't get this stuff cleaned out, I'm not going to be able to get there.
Yeah.
So you churn this stuff out with the intent to be able to accommodate the new things coming. Also set it up so that we can pay it forward and train someone else in an environment where they can become their best. Like you just said, students like you, there's a lot of them that, like you said, they get into architecture and they're like, I hate this. I want to get out there and get my hands dirty. Or I love drawing and designing things, but I only want to do one aspect of it. I don't want to do a whole house. Because most time when they're learning these things, they're just learning a floor plan.
Yeah.
They don't realize
they're learning the fun part.
Yeah, the fun part. They don't realize the amount of work that goes on after the initial concept. So what I've been working on is developing a system so that it makes it easier and it's faster, because that's going to mean quicker contracts, more builds. It's where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. Well, and the other side of it for me is just knowing this. Let me form this in a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you came and like, me, and we had a relationship and it's cool, but like you have all these callings in your life too. I think we're very similar humans.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this idea to come back and you're like, yeah, I remember when we met, you're like, yeah, I interviewed with this thing. It's great pay, it's all this stuff. But like, I just feel like it's missing something.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've done is like, I love the fact that we have the ability for highly efficient, skilled operators to come in and be masters of their craft in our atmosphere, right? What we're creating. But I love the fact that there's something about the mission of what we're doing that's bigger than just drawing barndos, as a job. And that's been one of the things that we've prided ourselves on since day one, is like, we offer something bigger than a career, to come in and be a part of something that's impacting people. Not even necessarily just people that are wanting to build a barndominium. I mean, we're impacting communities, we're impacting the people that work there. And for you, I don't know if that was a kind of like that tipping stone moment, to where.
Well, I'll tell you this, the moment I walked in the office, I was just blown away by the pieces of the puzzle that you guys have put together. You have people that are the best at what they do in those areas, or you've got structure, or you've got a system to teach someone to do it. So that was super impressive. And then, yes, the fact that you invest in the people, because there's so many places you can go to work and you're just going to do a job and you're going to get a paycheck and that's it. And I wanted more than that. I wanted an opportunity to invest in other people with my experience, build a team that wants to do good, do the best they can at what they have, but also do it in a manner that represents the company well, and I'm a spiritual man, so I want to represent the Lord well, right? I want to do everything I can to the glory of God. So I think the more people that remember you're dealing with other people and emotions and feelings and point of views, I think the further you're going to go down the road, because you've said it, you invest in people. And I knew coming on board, just by looking around, the freedom, the flexibility, the understanding, family's important. Those types of things mean the world to someone like me. And I'm sure to others, once they get in there, if they have their own family, they're going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I hear from people all the time, well, I'm stuck in the office, well, just odd end things, the typical office life.
Yeah.
And I knew that from when I walked in, that wasn't what you had. And I fell in love with it immediately, because designers, especially, we kind of like that freedom and flexibility, and I feel like we have it.
No, for sure. Well, it is intentional. Because one of the things I tell people all the time is like, we're all human beings, not human doings. Like, you do your job, that's what you get paid for. But there's so much more that you have to want to be here for. And part of that is people want to grow. People want to learn. They don't want to do the same thing for the rest of their life. They want to grow into new opportunities. And for me, having design come in-house, even though our building is, but I told you when you came in, so we're moving to bunk bed desks.
Yeah.
But it's having you there in proximity to everything that's going on improves the client experience so much from a design perspective because you're so well versed in what is a Barndo Co standard. What we do things differently, but why? For you, I mean, we've got a Bible of standards that we deliver out to designers. We still have designers that work with us and for us, but like we give them like the Bible of design standards, and then they have a little creative freedom in there to kind of like piece it together. But ultimately, like our client is telling you what they want. We're telling you what it has to look like. We're telling you how every piece of the angle has to go together. But like, it's not just a reference for you. You're there. Like you understand why, it just speeds up the process for people so that they don't end up with something that looks really pretty that they're really excited about. And then just later to find out that it's got to be a little bit different because of the way it's built. To have somebody at the front that knows that, and some of that is just that first 6 months there is going to be, I got to learn everything that's going on because, we learn from experience.
Yep.
The good news is we get lots of experience.
Yeah.
The Barndo Show is sponsored by the Barndo Co. Are you ready to reclaim your American dream? If so, head over to thebarndoco.com, click the contact form, and reach out to one of our representatives so we can get your dream started today. Tell people, I guess, a little bit about who you are in terms of, when you approach design, it's not just trying to fit everything into one box, and I think sometimes that can become the standard is to smash people into a design. A lot of people after 30 years lean heavily on their portfolio, and new fresh things don't come along too often. And I think you have a good approach to that of like what's feasible, and then how do we make it personal.
Yep, exactly.
And I've heard you talk about that even in some of the ideas that we've had of like revamping and creating new collections and doing all these things, like feasible but still personal.
Sure. Typically how previously my system, I would get a call or an email. Hey, someone gave me your name. You do houses. So I sit down with them and first just find out what their needs are. That's programming, technical term. I just keep it as two people meeting. Hey, how can I help you? I have a skill and you need something. How can I help you do it? Okay. So, in most clients, they always have some grand idea, but the budget's always restricting, right? So what I like to do is help look at the plan they've picked. Once I know their needs and their budget, and then look to see if there's areas that we can improve and give them more of what they really want so that 10 years down the road, they don't regret what they built. And then I'll tell you a little side story on my own personal home. You'd think being a designer, I would take the time to do this, but I didn't. I built with another company years back in 2004, and picked one of their plans. So I didn't fully design my own, but I missed so many little details because at that time in my life, I was more concerned about bedrooms, kids. I wanted a big farmhouse with a lot of bedrooms. I missed the need for a large laundry room.
Right.
And the need for entertainment space. I forgot about all the kids and their friends hanging out. I was just thinking about how can I provide a roof over kids' heads, So whenever I meet with a client and look at a plan, I think through all of that. I think through furniture placement. I think through not only the traffic flow, but when that house is full, will it function? Can you entertain? Can everyone be part of the event? And, did they feel like they're sitting out of the dining room and into the living room? All those little spaces is how I approach it, keeping in mind what the life cycle of these owners, because the kids are not always going to be in the house. Or if it's a retirement home, when they pass it on to someone else. All those little elements. It's not just here and now. It's what's the future.
Right.
Because the house is going to be around a while.
Yeah.
We hope.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's creating long-term value inside of it. And people come to you, like you say, they're trying to solve a problem that they got today. And sometimes they forget about the problem that could be created later.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we did in the beginning, we had a lot of people asking us, you know, like, y'all don't have any 2-story plans. You know what? You know, when I think Barndo, I think big, and I think all this stuff. Not that we don't love doing them, and we've done plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
But when we like hone in on a plan to put it on our website, we have some that are 2-story, and there's value to them. There's reasons for it. But in the beginning for us, we were thinking from a cost perspective, the way we build, it costs us no more money to go out as it does up. Now, as we've expanded and we've got more clients and we encounter new things, I mean, we've had people build these things in downtown, right up in the municipality in an urban area, and they've got a postage stamp. There's value to going up then. But we've kind of built these like sustainable age-in-place homes because we know that a lot of our customers, now granted, some, you know, it's not to say all. At one time, I'd say 90%. Now it's still well above 50%. They're building forever. Their plan is to live here until they're no longer here.
Exactly.
And we always say, you know, like it's better to have it, not need it, not have it. And you know, just because that's a grandiose looking design, let's talk through living in it for a moment. You know, Mr. Barndo Bob, as you know, you're 66 and retired, and you're thinking about it right now, and we do all this stuff, and you have this incredible space and entertainment room up that flight of stairs, and you know, you go like saying, you know, it's 76. Your knees might not want to do that.
Exactly.
And taking some of those elements into consideration, and then also we have the cool thing of like being like, I mean, we're building for the cowboys out here that are still, you know, they don't want to be in a cookie cutter environment.
That's right.
We got so many clients come to us with very unique stuff. Like we are up in Mooresville and all that. We've got, you know, professional drag racers that are building with us. And what do they care about? Shop space, you know, and they got to make mama happy. So they got to build some pretty stuff in there and make a nice kitchen and all that. But they want to shop because they're thinking about that. People that are, you know, trying to, you know, build a place for hanging out because, you know, they've transitioned from parent to grandparent and they've got all these people and they love hosting and they want a space to put the side-by-sides, put a golf simulator, you know, their grandson's playing baseball. They, you know, we've built some cool stuff for people. I mean, we've built pickleball courts inside of garages. We've built rock walls and slides, and we've done a bunch of stuff over the years. But the fun part for me is that we kind of meet people where they are. Yeah, we have a great catalog of stock homes, and they're designed to solve a majority of needs that people have. And they're very predictable. Right? Very, very predictably, we can tell you what it's going to cost to build a house. Right? There's some elements in there because we got to go out there and figure out what it's going to take to get your land ready to build that house.
True.
But when you go into the world of custom, predictability is out the window. That's why it's so important from a designer to have somebody that has some of that predictable knowledge to try to incorporate as much of that as they can into that design. Because at one point in time, 85% of our business was custom. At one point, it was 100% because we didn't have anything. But for a long time, it was 85% of our builds were customs. Now it's around 50%. But every time you go into that, if you're working with somebody that's not part of the organization, that's in those meetings, that's sitting down and going through that build with the project manager that built it and hearing like, hey, you know, hey, I ran into this issue, you know, if we move that door casing over this much, would the trim hit this and that? And when we put this piece in here, where this return was, and we're making those modifications as we go, then the world's your oyster. Like we get stuff and we're going, how in the world are we going to build this? You know? And so it's a double-edged sword. It's the most fun part because everybody can just paint with their own paintbrush and design something. You know, we've had people that built and put a mural of horses running, you know, in the whole gable wall of the house. And, you know, we've had people that build, and like I say, with a rock wall and a pickleball court in their garage. We've had people that come to us and they're so specific about this one need in their garage about how thick the slab's got to be and all this stuff. And we realize, oh, they tinker on cars, or he's got this giant offshore boat that he wants to store inside and quit paying his $2,200 boat storage fee. We've solved a lot of that. Or, you know, people that are building one of our 1,000 square foot elderberries, one of our bungalow plans, spruce, something like that, and then they're building this shop beside it, and you know, I'm like, what is the purpose of this? They're like, well, we're gonna park our motorhome in it, and that's why we only want it to be 18 feet wide,
Mm-hmm.
80 feet long, and we
Yeah.
need a 12-12 roof pitch because we got to have a 22-foot door.
That's right.
You know, and like, there's nothing else where you get into that, like as much as in the Barndo world. So I would imagine from a design perspective, it's pretty fun to have, to know that.
Yeah. It's fun to know you've got all that open space. Usually you're confined to all these little load-bearing elements and point loads and all this, with what we do, you're just concerned with kind of where that post lands and if there's windows or doors near it. But we have a solution for that. They're engineered. You can drop some LVLs and get your spans. One thing I've enjoyed, Barndo has information on each plan as to what little hiccups they ran into in the field. And those are things that I normally don't get because I've dealt with customs for 30 years. So once it's handed off to the builder, most of the time I'm out of the picture unless there's a design change or there's something that I missed or whatever, and then they bring me back in. But part of what I've been doing with our stock plans is looking at what complaints or suggestions that our project managers had, our sales team or selections, whoever. Maybe, hey, turn the door this way, add this door. This should be a double door, make this a pocket door. All those suggestions, I'm taking into account when I look at this plan and then look at it through the filter of 30 years of dealing with customs, and maybe it's a good change, maybe not, because everyone isn't wired to think about where that light switch is going to go. Or that door flipping that way now makes it hard to turn the lights on or off. Most people don't think about that. They just know they want a door there, or I want a barn door. Well, you don't realize that barn door is going to affect something else when it's open. You know what I'm saying? Or a pocket door that's,
you're 100% right.
People do not think about those things. And we, being in the industry, we think about it. So, like you said, me being there in the office, hearing the conversations and knowing the things to look out for, yes, it's definitely helpful. And the client should feel more, they should feel good about their choice because everyone's working together as a cohesive unit, and you don't have a third party that's not in the conversation.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the end result is different.
Yeah.
And so, like, for years we used third party, but we've always had an in-house team that was creating the initial strategy, creating the playbook of what all the standards had to look like. And then even when those plans were done, they would come into our team. We'd redline them to death and send them back out. And so, like, realistically, if you were a third-party designer for the Barndo Co, you were a scribe, right? We're sitting there issuing the content.
Yep.
And I can imagine that would probably be a little bit monotonous, but it was enough volume that it paid well enough that people, would fight for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And we had some valuable relationships in that. But the difference in moving it in-house and not just saying, hey, we do design in-house and not having a very qualified person, but to know that we have a very qualified lead that's building out a team to tackle this and to know that in that design, the head of construction, the project managers, the salespeople, our selections team that are working with all of our vendors, they're feeding information on a daily. It's the world is moving so fast that something as simple as a faucet change can impact design.
Oh, yeah.
Because how is it going in there? Is it what's the spread? What's this?
Yeah.
How's that impacting this? And it sounds dumb, but those are the little misses that when you get into the field, you run into all these field changes, and then you end up moving in your home, and there's that one part of it where you're like,
yep.
And your home's beautiful. Your guests come over and they tell you how beautiful it is, but at the end of the day, you're laying in bed and you're thinking about that the bathroom you designed, and then you went and bought a pre-built vanity. And because of the way the plumbing was, it's shifted to the right, and there's a 3-inch gap on the left-hand side of it, and it's driving you crazy.
And now it's not centered, and your decor won't work. I get it.
Yeah.
I know it.
So, but to have that all in one machine, so you're not just working with Ben. You're working with Ben, who's working with an entire team that's designing the home, speccing the home, going to build the home, and probably have built something, either the same plan or something very comparable to it, to where we have real field data of things that
Mhm.
could or couldn't work. When you say, "Hey, I want that barn door there," there's an entire SOP of how a barn door should fit into that based off of what we do and how we do it.
Mhm.
And it's not just a decision made by somebody who's got to make it look good on paper.
Mhm. Exactly.
And it raises the bar. It raises it tremendously high, even to the point to where we've had some clients coming in who have been in the design process before you got here, who are kind of frustrated with some of the process because sometimes, and it's not as often now because the systems get better, but sometimes they end up designing a house that's well beyond their budget.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to turn them off from it because they just keep going. And in the moment, they're like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And they say that like 36 items. And then when you add all 36 of them together, there ain't no figuring it out, right?
That's
No,
right.
we got to figure it out because we got to start working backwards.
Mhm.
But we had some people that were kind of in that, and then the ability to plug them into you and how swiftly that happened. Like I remember Lance, director of sales, calling me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing we ever did is get Ben here." He's like, literally 3 p.m. on a Tuesday having this issue. I brought in Ben Wednesday morning. They signed their contract. Everything's well in the world, and we were able to tackle it. Whereas before, I don't think it was a competency issue of the designers we were working with. It was the connectivity.
Mhm.
They didn't have the ability to jump into that meeting and sit in that room and hear all these different perspectives and come up with a solution and a compromise and try to get the client what they were looking for, but also meet all the standards and the things so that we didn't say yes to it. And then we end up with an Easter egg in the field.
That's right.
But also that we didn't say no to it, miss an opportunity to serve somebody.
Yeah.
It's just fluidity, and it's incredible. And the more that we do, and the more I know the stuff you're working on, right? I know I see some of the stuff that's coming that even people that are in the company don't know that's coming, and the ability to just serve more people and fit the needs of what we've seen. Because I mean, we're talking, hundreds and hundreds of barn doors we're building, but you're talking tens of thousands of client communications that we're having that all want to build.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's things that don't allow that to happen, and we get to take corrective action on that. Well, how could we make that happen and brainstorm on that and try to solve those impossible solves and and some of that stuff with some of the new Barndo collections that are coming, it's going to be great because people fall in love with a look.
Yep.
And then they got to figure out, is it functional?
That's right.
And a lot of times that's a deal breaker. And then they end up getting something functional, but it doesn't have that same look. And we've got some really creative things that we're working on to try to solve that for people so that if somebody sees it and that's what they want, there's a way to make it fit them
Exactly.
no matter what their budget is.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it is to be able to experiment with different options. And that the end goal is to help someone achieve their dream. They've been planning on this house and wanting it for so long. You know how many conversations they've had at night about it, around the dinner table, even arguments. I've been the mediator between a husband and a wife many a times. It's like, okay, let's don't fight. All right. And I've been the one that had to walk them through it and help them see the advantage in going one way or the other. And I've always been pretty good at that. I'm a people person, so I'll listen to them and I'll help them figure out a way to get what they want so that they can live happily ever after, So that's kind of the nice thing is to know that we're working on some options that's going to better suit the clientele, even better than what we've done in the past, which from what I see has been amazing. It's just going to step it up one more. And to keep those customers in that are looking so they're not going to look somewhere else because we have what they need. And if we don't have exactly what they need, we can work things out.
Right.
There's some flexibility.
Well, and the speed element.
Oh, that's right. It doesn't take 3 months.
Yeah.
You can, and that's the magic, right? That's, you get onboarding, you want to get to contracting, or get the contract and then move on, get your permit, get this thing built. That's what you're trying to do. And, if one little change order, moving a door around is going to take 3 months, if it's going to set you back 3 months, I mean, that's just not a good way to operate.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I love to jump on it and get it done quick because, people they're not so patient anymore.
Right.
And when they get impatient, they start losing confidence, so it's like.
I straddled that sword for 4.5 years of having a designer that has to learn what we do, because what we do is not conventional.
That's right.
And then trying to teach them that, and then they get lost in the weeds of that, and then we're trying to solve a problem, and then they didn't really follow the standard, and then maybe it was only a 2-week designer change, but ultimately when we tried to implement it in the field, it did take 3 months because something was missed because we didn't have that cohesiveness. You didn't have that person in the business that's constantly on a feedback loop to make it better.
Chain reaction, go up Interstate 85 and let someone touch the brakes and you see what happens. Yeah. One little hiccup on this it's just going to bottleneck down the road. And when you're doing hundreds of houses, my Lord, you can't afford to have that. So I'm looking forward to being able to really speed that up, So that's why I've been working really hard on getting all the standard houses. All of them will look the same. The blueprint's the same, the standards, everything, the way they're dimensioned, so that when it goes to the field, they know where information is.
Yes.
Because if they're fumbling through 10 sheets of paper to find something, that's slowing production down. And then you leave room for errors and things like that. So I'm excited about streamlining everything, standardizing everything, so that as this team gets built and there's a draftsman that comes in and is exploring this career, they have a structured system that will point them in the right direction, but also keep it from being some mundane office job.
Right.
There's some creativity there. There's some things that they can do that they love. One thing I've found with the program we use is a lot of new folks love to do the interior design, the colors and the decorating and all that. And that's not my thing. I'm more of a space designer, and I can think through the decorations and all that, but that's not the first thing I do when I design a house is go paint the walls.
Right.
I realize that could change a million times. So that's what I've been doing, just setting up a system, and learning the team, learning the flow of when a client gets on board, where it goes, and maybe that's just kind of the entrepreneur in me is wanting to see the moving pieces and how it works so that I can better do my job.
Yeah. Well, as part of it is the commitment to excellence. And what's funny, and I hearing you talk, it's like, you came in and it's new and we're building this department and it's already better. But you feel like there's tons of runway here yet to be made up. And I think that we get in that all the time because today we're trying to improve experiences that are taking place today and yesterday. Mm-hmm. And the crazy part about it is we're trying to improve it based off of today's volume, today's metric. Mm-hmm. And then what we end up doing is doubling in production size, simultaneously shrinking our production timeframes. Mm-hmm. And it's a never ending task because every day at Barndo is a different day because historically, over the last 4.5 years, every day we woke up, it's bigger, there's new components, and it's always better. And that's a standard that's hard to hold, is getting people in there. But the way it happens is you got really specialized people in very specialized roles that are focused on one thing. And from the top, we're trying to set a bar here. And how do you get there? Here's all the 3,000 little things that have to happen. And we don't solve them in a bubble. When you think about what you're doing, you're not solving it for today's volume. You're solving it for what you've heard is coming 12 months from now. And so it puts pressure on it, but we've done incredible things. We've cut in 4.5 years, we've cut build times by more than 100%, from, meaning literally in half. Our build times have gotten twice as fast. Our callbacks have improved by 90%. Our client journey from first click on the website to contract is literally 20% of what it used to be. It is insane, the improvements, knowing that volume has increased at the same rate. The first year we were in business, from 2022 is when we count first year. We were founded in 21, but we didn't really do anything in 21. In 2022, we kind of started. from 2022 to 2023, we had 384% growth.
Mm.
That's insane. And then we had 100%. Then we had 80%, 50%, 50%, 60%. And like we're growing at an incredible clip. And to be able to do that and see systems and processes shrink, we can take people now from first click on the website to handing them their door key quicker than we used to could take them through design. And that's not true for every client because, I mean, it really is the complexity of what you build. And we're one of the few builders that builds the volume we build that will build a sub $300,000 home as well as a $3.5 million home at the same time, you know, like, and they're both going through the same process.
Yeah.
And, you know, so there's a lot of variables inside of that. But man, I'm just excited that you're here. I'm excited to, you know, put a face to it, like let people know like that, you know, you exist inside the company and that they're working. If they're not working directly with you, you're heavily involved in what's going on with their projects. And you kind of have been since day one. But new people coming in, they're going through systems that you're building. And the experience is going to be so elevated. We've already had people calling us and bragging on how much better things are from a client's perspective. The team is excited because, man, it just makes their life easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You've only been here for what,
oh man,
2 months,
mid-March.
Yeah,
mid-March. I love it. You know, I told you when we first met after I moved back to town that I want a job I can wake up and I'm looking forward to going to work. And I catch myself doing that. You know, even when I get home at 6, 7 o'clock and I'm just chilling out and I'm thinking about a plan I was working on or an idea, I'm like, oh, I'm ready to get to the office. I want to draw this thing, you know. And I have to tell myself, slow down. You know, you don't want to burn out. You know, I've done it many a times, but it's such a blessing to know that there's a team right there behind me. That I can work with, and everyone is striving to be the best they can, and that's all I want, man, is to be a part of something where everyone's trying to be the best they can, and pay it forward, and you know, just help people achieve the dream of building a home, for whatever reason. And
we took someone from the Virgin Islands to design in Barndo's in Spartanburg, and he's excited.
You did.
He's excited. I
tell you,
you know what I mean?
You know, I've had a lot of people say, "Are you an idiot? Why'd you leave the islands?" You know, island life is not as easy as people think. It's vacation wears off, you know, and then you got to get to where I got bills to pay, and then you're like, man, this isn't fun anymore. Yeah. But no, it's been a great journey, and I've learned a lot along the way, and you know, I feel like I'm in a great spot. I'm glad to be here. And, hey, man, you're one of my students. Yeah. I mean, hey.
It's full circle moment for me. I tell people all the time, I'm like God gives me glimpses, you know, of like a full circle moment. And it's so cool to me to be able to have built an environment to where you come into it and thrive and be able to bring what made me love you as a young guy to now have an environment where you're bringing that into my company and bringing that same charisma, that same, you know, like belief. Yeah. I tell everybody the story, the belief, because people like I have a problem with it. Like I am highly optimistic, and I have a lot of confidence when it comes to executing something. I don't think about failure. I don't think about things that went wrong. I always just say like, okay, cool. If they went wrong, that's the feedback I need. But look at the things that went right, and this will work, and this will happen. And if not, then I'll break it, and it will fix it again. That was built in a classroom where I was literally middle of the class in everything till I was number one. Yeah. And you know what was really cool is my 11-year-old son. I'm doing this. I'm trying to be intentional with my boys. And I've always tried to make it a high priority, and I feel like I do a good job. But like when you're obsessed with being the best, your standard's always moving up. Yeah. And so like, you know, my oldest son passing away last year, it just really convicted me and put the pressure on me of like the 4 boys that are in my house now, how am I investing in them? And am I being intentional? And I feel like I am, but like, how do I measure that? And so I built a 12-month program because that's how my mind operates. And I built some very strategic things that I want to make sure that I'm teaching them about becoming men. And I said, well, you casually have that in conversation and you model it best by example, but some of it's intentional. And the month of May, we kicked it off, and the theme was the fire. I'm teaching them to build fires, and we're doing knife safety. So like they're learning to whittle down these things, and we made a bow drill, and we're actually making fire with a bow drill, and but in that we're sitting around the fire, and I was like, what's something that you want to do that you've never done, that you feel is like stirring in your heart. And, it's fun because I got all different ages, right? Boone, I'm just holding him. He's just, he's just happy to be here.
He's just happy.
Arrow, he's like coming up with something. He's 4, he's like telling you a story and you're like, I don't even know, like if you're in the reality or where, and then my 8-year-old, he's very artistic and like creative. And so he's always giving these very vivid things. And my 11-year-old, he's very stoic. And very sweet kid, very mature. And he's been on a lot of adventures with me. He does not act like when he was a 6-year-old, he didn't act like a 6-year-old. He's 11 and he's just kind of wise beyond his years, but he's quiet. And it reminds me a lot of like me as a kid. And we're going around there and I got him and I call him Boudreaux. And I'm like, all right, Boudreaux, what are you thinking? And he said, I just want to be number 1 at something.
Oh. And
I felt that in my soul. Because I did everything as a kid, man. I played baseball. I wasn't the best. I played football. Wasn't the best. I rode bikes. I wasn't the best. I was involved with a lot of things, but I was never number 1 at anything until I was in your class. And like, even number 1 in Spartanburg didn't make me, and I was number 1 in the state, but it didn't make me number 1 at the nation. But that number 1 moment, I connected with him so big, man. And it made me instantly like, your son tells you, I just want to be number 1 at something. And you want that too. I can't make you number 1.
Yeah.
But boy, can I.
You want them to succeed.
Yes,
and now you're.
Let's get some opportunities.
Yeah, let me provide some opportunities for you.
But I'm sitting there that night and they go to bed and I'm thinking like, when was I first number 1? And it was there. And it's just a full circle moment because I know like I lived 15, 16 years of my life before I had that moment. And it's short-lived, but once you're number 1 once, you have a different perspective of you can do it again.
Yep, you can do it.
And a lot of people, I think, just never even wake up with the ambition to be number 1.
That's true.
And we've built a culture at Barndo where I think a lot of the people that are there, I can't say all of them, and because, if you had nothing but that, you wouldn't have culture at all.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people there, their desire is to be number 1 at what they're doing. And it's powerful, man. So I just appreciate you for the influence you had on my life, dude. It's fun for me to know that like I was able to build this and now you're here in it and it's a blessing to you and it's a blessing to me. But you were one of the people that built me. And so it's full circle for me to just be able to tip my hat. And I told my wife, I was so excited. Like after we met that day, I went home and she was like, you're just like giddy. I said, I know. I'm like, it's incredible because for years, you're like a character in the stories I tell. But now like the people that I care about the most get to experience you too. And I think highly of you, man. Like you're on the Mount Rushmore of people of influence in my life. And to have you back here and in this, it's like such a cool orchestrated moment. And genuinely, thank you.
Well, that's awesome.
Because you did. You put belief in me and helped me have my first number 1 moment.
Well,
so
you are welcome and very deserving, and you're blessing me at the moment. So, hey, thank you, brother. I mean, dude, it's great.
No, this is a great episode. I hope you guys seen this. And I'll say this from a perspective of if you're a designer that happens to stumble across this, he's building a team and he's going to be looking for things. And there's ways to connect, connect via email. You could call into the office, but there's going to be some opportunity there. If you're seeing this as a client or a potential client and you're thinking through that and, wondering what that would be like, we're committed to putting the best possible people in place so that you're in the best possible hands that have the most predictable outcome that you can have. Granted, building a home is a highly volatile environment, but we do our best to make it as predictable as possible. I love you, dude. And I'm so glad you came and did this podcast with me.
Likewise, man.
All right,
Thank
man.
you so much.